Okay, so we are on chapter 8. We are going to talk about equip 6 and 7. Uh, and as I said, you'll have time to study for your test. So question 6 says, contrast these unusual events with a miracle. So what is an anomaly? Well, first let's define what is a miracle, which you already did in question 1. So a miracle is a special act of God that interrupts the normal course of events. And then, as the book also put it, a miracle is something that would have never happened had nature been left to its own devices, meaning it's supernatural. It can't happen naturally. And then miracles happen rarely and by supernatural causes. So we're kind of contrasting that to these different things. So what is an anomaly? That's a good word for however long it is. Yes? Yeah. It's something that is not supernatural but unusual in nature. So freak of nature is a good way of putting it. Think of, the stories you hear of someone who's like 7, 11 in height. That's an anomaly. That's unusual. Even being 7 foot is an anomaly. But it's not a miracle. It's just a freak of nature. What is providence? Yes. Yeah. Um, I mean, it's not prearranged though, because it happens without arrangement. That's why if it was arranged, then it wouldn't be uh, it wouldn't be uh, there'd be nothing unusual about it. Anybody else have something there? So, like, they gave you some examples of providence. So, the day that the Allies stormed Normandy, there was this really bad fog, and the fog helped to make the surprise attack. They couldn't see the ships coming, and that helped them win that battle. That's not a miracle. That can be explained by natural causes. But I do believe it was providential. So providence is something that is indirectly caused by God. So was God behind it? I maybe, probably, likely, but it's not a miracle. It's God using the forces of nature to help. And that word providence always reminds me of many years ago when my children were little and my husband was home and I had the opportunity to go shopping by myself. And at that point in my life, that was a luxury and it was just too good to pass up. And so I mean, I was a stay-at-home mom. We were strapped for cash, so I didn't go anywhere nice, but I did go to Kmart. Now, you know where Kmart was in Bellevue. You just don't know where Kmart was in Bellevue. Do you know where Bellevue University is? Okay, and you know that huge building that's on top of the hill that sometimes, like on Christmas, during Christmas season, that they have these red and green lights and the lights change. Everybody know where I am? off of Harvell and Fort Crook up on that hill. Okay, so that's where Kmart was. Right where that building is was Kmart, and that whole big parking lot, that was the Kmart. And we had this old beater Dodge Caravan, I think, or something like that. That was the ugliest color of brown you could ever find. And so I went shopping and decided I was going to go somewhere else. I got to the car. This is before, remotes. So I put the key in. I turned it. I heard it unlock. I took the handle, and it was still locked. I thought, well, that's weird. Put it in again, and it unlocked. And I got down to the stop sign that goes on to Fort Hood Road, and the light was green. And I started to go into the intersection, and this guy goes flying past, right in front of me. Had that not happened, had my lock actually unlocked, I could have been right in the path of that car. I think that's God at work, just using natural forces, right? So that's providence. So so look at those two words. So psycho or psych is psychology is the brain working, and matic has something to do with work. So how the brain works. So psychosomatic. What does that mean? Like what is a psychomatic event? It's not a. Yes. Yeah, mind over matter is a good way of putting it. Psychological cures, and sometimes for false illnesses, it's like the power of positive thinking, and you can cure yourself with positivity. And I've seen all kinds of people claim that mind over matter, but that can't be proven, and a person isn't attributing it to God. So psychosomatic is just psychological cures, in some cases for false illnesses. And I'm not saying our mind doesn't have power, but it's limited. It can't change forces, so it's limited in that power. And then magic is an easy one. What's magic? Yes. Yeah, it's a trick. It's an illusion. It looks like the magician has cut the woman in two, but she hasn't. She's actually only in one part of that box. And the inside is opened, and when they open it, there she is. Yeah, it's sleight of hand. It's trickery. It's not. And then satanic signs is just what it says it is. It's a work of Satan. Satan has some power. He's not all powerful, but he does have some power to work in our world. And so it's the work of Satan, or what they call limited spiritual beings, demons, that don't elevate God. And one of the things for it to be an act of God is it needs to give glory to God. If it doesn't give glory to God, I don't know what it is, but it's not it's not a miracle. So obviously, Satan would never elevate God. Any questions on any of those? Okay, great. And then number 7, why don't we see biblical miracles today? I'm not going to say we don't see them, but they're not commonplace. We don't see that every day. I mean, I'll take this morning and some other times like that, right, where we have altered our entire day because God's moving, and that's more important. Does that happen every Thursday? No, not by a long shot, which is why we need to pay attention when it does happen. And that's true with this as well, that the miracles are not common. And so when that happens, we need to take notice. But what does the book say about this? Like, why aren't we seeing miracles every day? Yes. Yeah. So I think they word it something like a miracle is something that proves a message of something that God, some new work God is doing, or words to that effect. Yes. What was the last part? Yeah. Yeah. So when Jesus was on earth, there were a whole lot of miracles, weren't there? Because God was confirming Jesus as the Messiah through those miracles. And there have been these punctuated times in history where God pours out. Also, we see more miracles in parts of the world where there isn't modern medicine available readily. I've seen it a number of times in Africa. And I hear it from my African friends as well when people are healed. I was teaching in Serengeti, Zambia. Serengeti is a rural town. It's not in the bush, but it's close to that, and it's far away from any decent medicine or medical place to go. In fact, we were a girl was cut, and we were trying to find some sort of bandage. So I digress though. So I'm teaching these women. So when we go to Zambia, we have an orphan care center there, and we do a lot of playing with the orphans, which is really fun. But we also send some of our pastors to teach the pastors in Zambia. I got to back up a little bit. The guy who's in charge of the orphanage and the ministry in Zambia is a guy named Novice, and Novice is an apostle Paul. He's a modern day apostle Paul. He will go out, and he's now, I think, close to 70, which is really old. And he goes out to villages in the bush, and he preaches the gospel, and people come to Christ. And after he's lived with them for a while, he picks the man, and he's ready to go on. He picks the man that's the most astute and godly, and makes him the pastor. And he does this all over the place. And so those pastors need to be trained, but they can't go to seminary. They live way far away. They have no money. And so they come to Serengeti, and our pastors go, and they bring seminary to Africa. My job was to teach their wives, because their wives would come with them and their children, and so I taught Bible to them. And I'm teaching these women, and there's this little girl in the back of the room, and I'm really distracted because I'm like, she's really sick, and I'm trying to teach, but I'm like, this little girl is really sick, and I was thinking, she's going to die, and I was so scared. And so I went back to the house, and I said, we've got to pray. This little girl, she's not moving. She's burning up. She is sick. And so we prayed fervently. And that afternoon, I walked out of the house, and she's running around. That was a miracle. That was an absolute miracle. So I believe there are miracles today, but not to the degree that that there are miracles in a time when God is giving a new revelation, which is exactly what your book says. There's these punctuated times where there will be a time like that again in the end times, and there will be those that do false miracles in the end times as well. That's the answer. This is what I wrote down. So there's a misconception about miracles. The Bible records miracles happening all the time. But they actually occurred in punctuated, brief time periods when God was confirming the truth through messengers, Elijah, Jesus, and others. And so God was confirming a new truth through those messengers. And as his signet ring, or as his seal of approval, he used miracles to happen. So if there is no new message from God, no new word from God, then there will be fewer miracles. I'm not going to say there aren't miracles, but there will be fewer miracles. Any questions on any of that? Okay, so you've got your study guides for this test, quiz, quest, something like that. So you can spend this time working on those and studying for that test, which I'm going to still say is going to be on Wednesday. That might change. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But maybe I really don't want to do it on Thursday either. So we'll figure it out. We've got time in this with this particular curriculum to use a couple of days to catch up. Okay, questions? Nobody? Okay. Study for your test. Yes.
Is it okay if I grab something